the time.
Hey, Steve, that child was poorly parented. There's no way in the world that mother shouldn't have intervened and whipped his the first time.
No,
The dad did nothing, Steve?
The dad wasn't
there was no dad. That's what I said.
Mom, no dad.
No, I say because it's not a race thing. The dad, him and I looked at her like, dude, I get it, right? We're both tired. But here, this kid, I don't know, maybe the dad wasn't there. His mom didn't, and he shoved my son out of the way 3 times.
But poor parenting, though.
Yeah.
That's not
We run into that all the time.
That's what I was about to say. It's poor parenting everywhere. And that creates individuals that grow up to be grown up.
This guy right here in the glasses, he looks like that rapper Birdman. That's who he reminds me of right here. But, you know, I like this guy's shirt. Democrats versus Rebloodicans. That's funny. But, you know, like they always try to make excuses. Like, so we'll tell them examples. Like, you know, right here, they're trying to give an example of poor parenting or something of the black mother not doing anything for her child or whatever. And they're like, well, that's just bad parenting. It's like, yeah, it is bad parenting. But it seems that the bad parenting is more common in the black community. That's what we're trying to point out here.
Individuals.
Let me give
and
you one.
some of those individuals end up getting positions of power.
Well, see, can I drop one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Actually, like, because I like the thing about choices. And you were talking about the federal
By the
department.
way, the whitest
I'm sorry. But I'm sorry, like, there's a couple things. You said you ended up in.
I was thinking the same thing. I forgot his name, but he works on the show. But yeah, I was going to say, man, they just had to have the whitest guy there speak up right there and try to white-splain to these people the issues.
And so you don't have to worry about things that people in South.
No, I said I've been afforded some things.
Afforded.
Yeah.
Why? How are you afforded that? You just happen to.
No, I sacrificed some things to live in.
Correct.
Right.
You made good choices.
I made choices. I made choices
And we talk about educational standards.
But I also had opportunities available to me too that some people didn't have.
Of course, everyone has a different lot for sure.
Right.
Sure.
But you were talking about educational standards. Why is it that the Asian kid does 3 times to 4 times as much homework than the black kid, and the white kid does 2 to 3? Why?
Because it's culturally, it's conditioned.
Exactly.
So why is it better parenting from Asians than white parents? Why?
You said what?
Why is there better parenting? What he's trying to say is, you said bad parenting.
Well, I said.
So why is there better parenting from Asians
teaching,
than white parents?
Yeah,
Correct.
culturally, the educational mindset, culturally, when
it all comes back
among
to
Asians,
choice.
they're taught from young.
Yes.
That's primary.
Sure.
Over anything else, entertainment.
Also obeying the law.
How you dress, none of that matters.
And it's
Up here matters.
right,
Yeah,
and they're also
I agree.
about 3 to
Right.
4 times more likely to have a father in the household than a black.
That too. That too.
Why is this disproportionately affecting this one kid? Because I have a question, because I actually have, like, my uncle, my aunt's married to a black dude, one of the most accomplishment of all time. Helicopter pilot, National Park Ranger, served his country, has a Ferrari in the driveway, right? He wears, crew socks, so we can forgive him for some things. But my whole life I've had this great black role model in my life. But then I try to ask questions, and I have a hard time asking him because I don't want to, like, upset that relationship.
You're being responsible with your work.
So I want to ask now, like,
It doesn't help that you look like you're in the Third Reich.
I'm not even going to take that out. But then if you talk about there's no power. Well, we were talking about Charlotte, and you said the black activist judge. Well, in Charlotte, it's not just the black activist judge. It's the DA that's black that instituted those policies. It's a black mayor. So could we at least agree, before the Civil Rights Movement and now, do blacks have more or less institutional power?
There's been some bad and some good that
We
came
have
along
less
with the Civil
institutional
Rights
power,
Movement.
but you know,
Before the Civil Rights
but you know what we don't have?
Well,
We,
No,
as
more.
a community, we don't have the unity.
Well, here's the problem we have.
So the last thing I want to ask,
I want to ask you a question before you say the last thing.
It kind of all throws together, and I'll just let you go.
Okay, go ahead.
Why was the black community one of the fastest growing economic demographics in the country? Why were there tons of fathers in the household? Black people were becoming great role models and integrating into society naturally. And now it's substantially worse
You know why it's
than
worse?
it was before Martin Luther King.
You know why it's worse?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that and I'm gonna say this openly because I can't get into the specifics, but I work for an entity that I was flabbergasted to learn this. All right, and what we do is we provide Medicaid, right? And this is a former campaign I worked on, and I was awestruck when I would have white females that would call, and they would call on behalf of their entire family, which included the husband, right? So many people say, well, the welfare queen is having more children because she gets more food stamps. Well, here's how it really works, and I can tell you this from firsthand knowledge, right? Let's say I've got a household of a wife and a husband, and I've got 4 kids. that household can earn up to $6,900, right? And here's what happens. Even if the husband is in the household, many times they're self-employed. So, of course, you can skew the numbers any way you want. And you and your family will continue to get full health care. A black mother is always told if there's a man in the house, number one, then it's a no-go, okay? Look at the Section 8 Housing Authority. Now, here's what happened, and you want to know what happened, what caused
I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, what caused the problem in Black America, what caused the problem in Black America is the fact that when the father became absent in the home, right? When he became absent in the home, it left the mothers to bear the brunt. So to answer your question, do we have more influence in some areas? Perhaps, but ask yourself this. Do we have more influence economically? Because if you go back and you look, prior to the civil rights movement, let me tell you something right now. You had more black carpenters and tradesmen all over the place.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, that's right. But the problem is, again, if you agree with that, then you'll agree with the fact that if it had not been for the change in the systemic dynamics, that black men would still be in the home or what have you.
Right.
And the black family would still be doing it.
Federal government policy has not been instituted to help black people ever, but really to make them dependents of the state when they were doing just damn fine without the federal government that you want in more people's lives.
The only reason why
It's almost like reparations would be the same thing.
My question to that is,
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know some of that. I didn't know about like the whole if you're like a white mother, you with the husband in the household in some of these areas, you could still get welfare, but or Medicaid or whatever. But if you're black and you had a husband, it's like nope, crazy. Democrat policies that kept them enslaved. Exactly. That's why I call it the Democrat plantation. Yeah, exactly. It's almost as if the Democrats have just always been pieces of shit. Like always, always. They still want slavery now. They just now want illegal immigrants to be the fruit pickers and stuff like that, and the cheap labor. And they're still trying to hold blacks down by making them married to the state. And they just keep treating blacks like if they're victims. I'm calling BS on that Medicare claim. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe. Who knows? But if it's true, and that's due to it being in like a Democrat area, I mean, that might be true. I don't know. It's all just choices. You either make the right ones or you don't. That's true. Yeah, they were the party that owned the slaves originally. That's what I'm saying. Like, they never changed. There was never a party switch. There was never this party switch where it's like, oh, all of a sudden the Republicans became the racist ones. No, it was the Democrats, and it's always been the Democrats. It's not true. It's a financial threshold. Okay. All right. Like I said, I don't know. I didn't look into it myself. LGB said he'd get black people to vote for Democrats. That's when it started. Yeah. That's literal systemic racism. Maybe before 64, it was that way, but I doubt it. While the Republican Party was literally created as an abolition party. You can't make this stuff up. Yeah.
Why is that a problem for white America? And we were already...
Because it's one country.
Because it's what?
We are one country, and the problems of one community...
We're not one country. We're an entity. We're a corporation. The United States is a corporation. It's not a country.
It certainly is. And with that attitude, we can never be a country. If that's the attitude that people have...
Because it's not a country. It was never built. It's written in the Constitution. It's a corporation.
That is
not a country.
not written in the...
That is not written in the Constitution. That's just not true.
It's not a country. So what I'm saying is, when we were black people in our own communities thriving, like you said, doing our own thing, why was that a problem for white America? We were doing our own thing. Why did y'all come and burn down the Wall Street, Black Wall Street? We had our thing going. Why is it an issue when we have our own thing going and we're minding our business? White America, oh, that's wrong. Y'all are doing something wrong. That's not by the code. That's not by the rules.
No one here is trying to justify clear racist policies of the past or racism of the past. Of course that existed. No one was arguing that.
Here's the thing.
We're not arguing. I'm saying why is that
I'm just one thing. It sounds like you're saying that you would want racial segregation. Because you're
I
saying...
don't want racial segregation. We asked for equality. We didn't get that.
But you're saying your own community doing your own thing.
Do our own thing.
Are you saying that we should be separate communities? That's what I'm asking. Are you saying we should be separate white and black communities? That's what it sounds like a little bit.
separation may be the answer.
Okay. I
Separation could be the
appreciate your
answer.
honesty. I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, separation could be the
But if
answer.
a white person says that, is it racist?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Is that what the sovereign citizens believe? That the U.S. is a corporation? I only know sovereign citizens from the police videos I've seen where they're like, I'm a sovereign citizen. I don't got to do what you tell me. And then they get fucking arrested. Stupid sovereign citizens. That's crazy. I didn't really know that's what they that's what they believed.
But I think that's I don't think we should.
But if you're saying it in a narrative that we are a threat to you guys, so that's why we want to be separate.
But you just said that white people are a threat to black people. That's what you just said. So why can't white people say it? And I don't think separation is the answer.
I didn't say that. I said you guys find a problem with everything that we do.
If separation is the answer,
Yeah, but reparations, come on with it.
So who gets the reparations?
The whole black community,
American descendants of slavery.
the people that have been wronged for so many years.
America.
The government that's taking from it.
Hey, Ukraine. I ain't never personally asked
You don't have to tell me twice.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Like, why are we paying that?
Right, so the
I agree with you.
federal
How about we pay none of it and let people make their own decision?
money would just go back to reparations. That's the system.
To answer the question of who should pay,
Yeah.
the federal government should be on the hook for some of that. But every single company that benefited from chattel slavery, all the insurance companies, all the freight companies, all of those companies that existed then, that still exist now in some name, shape, or form, they should have to pay into that because they all profited for it. Just think about this.
Yep.
You insured a slave. When you bought a slave, you got insurance on that slave. That insurance company made money off of that. And they built up into
What percentage of the workforce in the United States do you think were actually slaves here in this country? Because that might.
I don't know what the percentage was, but I know all the hard work. I know who did all the hard work.
No.
I know
And you know
who
what?
did- I
You
know
just
who
said the
worked
railroads.
7
You just said the railroads. Why aren't the Chinese immigrants asking for reparations?
Because they've already been gifted what they were going to give.
You did what?
We did it for them.
How's it going, Tyler?
You did it full?
For them.
No, the Chinese built the railroads. The Chinese were slaves. They built the railroads.
We did that for them.
No. The Chinese were the majority of the slaves building railroads.
Now, on
They
the
didn't get
railroad,
reparations. They don't want it.
Well, I tell you what. Next time we'll have you a Chinese dude in here so you can ask him that. I don't give a I'm talking about black people.
Can you guys deal with the
I'm talking
straight
about
hair like
black
that?
people.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That's another misconception that we get all the time, too.
We can cut any kind of hair, but we're talking about what black people. Hold on.
Dude. I like how Crowder's just calmly just sipping a water while just everyone is just freaking going off in there. But yeah, no, it's true. It's just a lot of like focus put on like, well, this is, it's because of this, it's because of that. And it's like, they want to talk about slavery, but it's like, yeah, Asians were like, slave labor at one point. And it's like, but Asians are doing just fine. Japanese people would put in internment camps at one point. Now they're fine. So what's going on with the black community? How come at one point the black community seems to be doing well, and then there was like a huge drop off?
We talking about where the money's supposed to come from. It's companies that are trillion-dollar, billion-dollar companies that started in the 1600s, 1700s that are still around, and they benefited and profited immensely from that.
What if it's a
They
company
should
that
have
never
to
had
pay
slaves?
that.
Should they pay reparations?
No, not that the company had slaves, but we had companies that insured slaves. You had companies that transported slaves.
But what if it's a company that did none of it? Should they pay?
No, if they didn't have anything to do with chattel slavery, no, they
Right.
shouldn't.
Neither
But
did
the
I.
companies that should.
But let me say this.
But your grandfather,
But you understand the point?
But if your grandfather was here in the United States, I don't know. You said you from Canada. I don't know. We not worried about it. We worry about the people.
What if
that
your
were here.
grandfather was a slave?
Dude, and here in California, Newsom just signed a thing about getting reparations to blacks, even though California wasn't even like a slave state or anything like that. No involvement with slaves whatsoever, but they're going to work on getting reparations to the descendant of slaves. And it's like, oh, brother.
Owner, and mine wasn't.
My grandfather was.
What if he was? But my point is, what if he was?
And yeah, I'm not going to see any of these people who think reparations are good. You're not going to be seeing them putting up a fight. Like, you're not going to see any blacks that could be getting reparations for this, putting up a fight saying, well, if you listen, this wasn't a slave state, so blah, blah, blah. Like, they're going to accept the reparations wholeheartedly. So I don't know what this guy's talking about in terms of like, well, if you never owned a slave, if you're whatever, then you don't have to worry about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, are you going to stand up against California offering reparations?
Because
my grandfather was a sharecropper in Plaquemine, Louisiana, in a little small town called Bayagula. So he was 2 generations removed from slavery. So I know I have a root in slavery.
Okay.
Somebody owned my great.
Yeah, I was going to say, was California even a state during slavery? Like during slave times? I'm not even sure.
Grandfather.
What if I have no root in slavery?
Well, you don't owe nothing. You don't owe anything. Your grandfather, if your grandfather from Canada, he wasn't down here owning slaves.
Okay,
he
I'm just trying to. So then people who didn't owe,
down here telling
we don't pay
what to
reparations.
Do, he owe money.
But Steve, here's what I'm telling you. Though, hold on a second. Here's what I'm telling you. If you're to go through the numbers, sir, do we agree? If I have no connection to slavery whatsoever, that I don't owe. Me.
You don't.
We agree.
Don't.
Okay. So do you realize that you could take all the white people in this country, and if you're going to add up everyone where you could actually trace the lineage to slave owners or had any involvement, you would end up with maybe 2 or 3%. 2 or 3% of white people in this country.
There go them numbers. There go them numbers. There go them numbers. There go them numbers.
Most of us have no numbers.
Somebody did it. Somebody did.
Yeah,
and
Africans sold them into slavery.
Somebody owed.
It's still going on right now.
Somebody owed.
Yeah.
There are more slaves on earth right now than ever. Did you know that?
Steve, let me ask you a question.
I remember I learned that, when I was going to college. Like I learned that there was still slavery in the world, like in Africa of all places. And I remember I was like, what? I was stunned. I was like, oh, what? In Africa of all places, there's still slavery?
Let me ask you a question. We're not gonna really get to the heart of it. Let me ask you this. Are you aware of what's going on with McDonald's right now?
McDonald's, the company?
Yeah, McDonald's, the company.
I'm aware they can't get my fillet of fish right anytime I go.
Let me tell you what's really happening. I got a friend of mine who currently has 5 McDonald's locations, right? So there are many times he says, Cedric, sometimes I've got to get up at nighttime to go and check, even if the chiller goes out, right? So I said, man, why is that so? What's really happening? He said, Cedric, what happens is there are most black franchisees, right, that own these McDonald's. He said, we have to get them in the most low-performing areas, right? Never mind the fact that we make the same investment up front to purchase one of those McDonald's, right? So when you talk about that, let's look at the systemic and institutional biases that are involved just in that. You tell me I got to pay you $1 million to get a McDonald's, right? Same thing as my white counterpart. But yet, I'm relegated to take a McDonald's in an area that's probably highly impoverished. I've got to keep coming up with all kind of gimmicks to keep the foot traffic coming through the stores. Where nobody talks about that.
Well, what about the flip side of it?
What happens on the flip side?
What about the flip side of it? What about the fact that you have the government that has grants that they invest in black-owned businesses that don't happen for white people?
Let me ask you this, Steve. It's funny you.
Does that even it out?
But no. But here's
because that exists.
Here's something you keep saying. You say that these grants exist for black people, but let me ask you.
Okay,
They get upset when it's like you bring up these facts and you're like, well, wait, no. It's like, oh, dude, just chill.
My point is actually both sides of that coin, right?
Yeah,
It exists for a reason. Why? What's the reason?
What's the reason they're investing in these black businesses? Because we were slaves.
The reason is based on what he's saying. That's why it's an
Right, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you use his example of the McDonald's, what would be the reason for relegating the black owners to the low income neighborhoods?
I don't know. I'm not able to verify that all that's factual. I know. Were you told you could only open here in nice?
Huh?
Were you told you could only open here in a nice?
Well, this is Steve's shop, but no.
Okay. But my point is,
but see, you have to understand something. Before you answer that question, you have to understand something. There's a difference in McDonald's or what have you. Because the way that structure, the way that hierarchical structure runs, they will designate you certain areas or what have you that you will be awarded a location in. You just don't have the right to say, okay, I'm paying $1 million.
That's the same for everyone. That's the same for everyone. I know a guy. Well, he just died not too long ago. He had a bunch of which I don't know how they're still around. It's disgusting. But
neither do I.
It's awful. I have never had a good meal at but he had to be in certain too because they had to displace his franchise investment, right? That's part of it, where he was like, this one place is killing me, but as long as I get this spot, when I average out the 4 spots, okay, I can turn a profit. So this isn't unique to the black community. What is unique is investments from the federal government and state government into black-owned businesses to rectify it that white people don't get. So it's not enough. So what would be enough?
Because of historical injustices that have been done to impede black businesses. That's
it's not enough now, but what would be enough?
Ask yourself, why would they do that? Why would they pay that?
What's the number?
Oh, because conditions historically.
What's the number, right? Public Department of Education, Great Society, Model Cities Program, black businesses, Pell Grants, Affirmative Action, DEI. It's not enough. What's the number that's enough?
Once again, just like we said about the civil rights movement, about the education and all that, you can do certain things in the name of doing the right thing, but you do it wrong. So
What's the number?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't personally have an answer
hold
to that
on, one
question.
moment, just one
But-
second. Would you agree that if a young person who has no connection to slavery whatsoever, you probably need a number for them? Otherwise, they're probably going to be pissed.
They didn't need a number for Ukraine.
Sure
They paid them same taxes. They didn't need a number for how much
You're
we were
talking
going to pay.
about reparations to a young person, right? In the name of sins of forefathers. My point is, what's the number? Because the number now is trillion.
So it's like, well, we send a bunch of money to Ukraine. Shit, why not give it to the blacks? Why not cut us off a piece of that pie? Shit.
Of dollars. I get it. The government screws everything up, and I will agree on that. What's the number? You're sitting down right now with a 22-year-old white kid.
Give my daughter $15 million and we'll call it
$15 million?
$15 million a piece. We'll call it square. That's for me and for them.
And $50 million, okay.
$15 million.
Look, since a lot of people don't care about their taxes, add an extra 2% to what you pay in taxes. How about that? 2%. That's a number.
2%?
2% extra in taxes will just go to all blacks? That's insane. Jeez. And what's the limit here too? You know, like, listen, I'm a minority here. You know, if I point to instances where my great grandfather or great grandmother or great great grandmother, great great grandfather had to deal with some kind of oppression in this country, can I get reparations?
For how long?
Let's see. How long it was?
So 2% only for white people who have a connection to slavery at their forefathers, right?
Imagine the slaveholder tax.
How long were we in slavery?
You'd end up with no money.
200 and...
You'd end up with zero money. You'd each end up with about $14.99.
You keep letting our people off the
But
hook,
that's what I'm
though.
saying.
The government
I'm talking about the government paying taxes. I'm not talking about just people
bears
who are responsible.
taking this.
Once
They
again,
got to pay.
I'm not responsible for anything happening in Ukraine, but I'm paying for it.
I agree.
So why should that rationale not transfer to this?
Because it's rationale.
It's not when the
Shit rationale. Yeah, it is shit rationale. Just because we send our money to freaking Ukraine and all that shit, which we also disagree with. We don't want to send money to Ukraine or Israel and all that stuff. But you know, even if we did, so what did this is what I was talking about. Like, I remember like when 10 years ago when all the libs were really like, we need universal health care. And then we would be like, well, dude, that's going to like raise up taxes like a shitload if we have that. It's not going to be good for the economy and stuff. And then we're like, no, why? Well, we could afford it. No, we could afford it. And we're like, no, we can't. You know, and then I remember I was thinking when we were sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, I was even saying, and I was like, well, shit, well, why not have universal health care at this point? Like the libs, I could see why the libs just think we have endless money to throw around because we're sending $billions to Ukraine. And look, here we are now. Now this guy is saying, well, we deserve reparations and shit because, well, we sent money to Ukraine. So why not? Why not cut us off a piece of that pie? You feel me?
It's not when the United States is the person the people who perpetrate.
Well, that's why I need to ask the number, because if you're talking about more than $15 per black person, you're talking about trillions of dollars.
Right, but if we're going to be a part of the same country, like Lane said, we're going to all be a part and members of the same country. Well, we have to take on what comes with that. What comes with that is historically, every time like Chris said earlier, every time black people have achieved in mass, it's been torn down. No. And then you get to a point
Unless you're talking about the riots,
Then you get to a point where you're like, I can mention there's several black communities that's under lakes. There's one that's under Central Park in New York. Like, there's plenty. But my point is, then you get to a point where you say, okay, we're gonna do this in the interest of justice. But then redlining and all that stuff happens, and then the prison industrial complex, all of that stuff that happens that adds to the wrong of it. It gets mixed in.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we tried, and you should just be happy with it.
Here's the problem. What you just said was the rhetoric and the reasoning behind catch and release, doing away with the three-strike policy. You point to New York. You got a black mayor and crime got worse.
Because he's a criminal.
And because you got 30 million people living in a
white guy.
That's racist, sir.
He was grabbing every guinea intern.
And probably the white guy that put him in his spot.
Okay, so it's worse. In other words, it's worse, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the prison industrial complex. That's why that guy was out 14 times.
But I'm saying that's also why you have less fathers. That's why you have less fathers in the home. So redlining and the prison industrial complex is the two main caveats to less fathers in the home.
We've done the opposite of the prison industrial complex. Violent offenders are being released into society and committing crime in record numbers right now.
And nonviolent offenders are being held on petty charges.
No, they're not.
I've personally done the numbers on it.
How did that guy get out after 14 times? George Floyd 9 times. Do you realize 11 times arrested is the average murderer?
And you got people.
Yeah, like what is he talking about? You know, we're seeing a bunch of these like dangerous criminals let onto the street after being arrested 13, 14, 15 times. So what is he talking about that there's blacks being held on like petty charges or like harshly treated for petty charges? Like no. That is clearly not happening. That is not what the real world, that's not what reality is reflecting.
In there for weed charges. That's in there for.
It's not a thing. It's less than 0.5%
personally
of federal penitentiaries.
And that's the thing. When you tell somebody
And
that
that's wrong, by
personal
the way.
knowledge don't matter because the stats matter more, I personally know this. I know somebody right now.
My anecdotal evidence. Well, what your stats don't matter because I know someone. I know someone. Therefore, debunked, homeboy.
That's in jail for small. But I know somebody else that did some big.
And also, was he? Also, was your friend really in there for some small shit, or is that just what he told you? Yeah, no, man. Shit, I was just not wearing a seatbelt, and they arrested my ass, man. No, I didn't do nothing. I was just driving alone by myself, and I just wasn't wearing a seatbelt. He said, "Get out of the car." Just arrested me. I didn't do anything, homie. Like, did he really do something small, or is that what he just told you?
They out.
Small. Keep defining small. So he had a joint on him.
Selling weed.
He's in prison right now because he had a joint.
But a small amount. One
time he got caught selling. One time a small joint he was selling.
No,
let's talk about small things.
Yeah. See, it probably wasn't just a small joint. He was probably selling a lot of weed, and so he's getting punished for it. But they always try to say like, he was just selling a joint. It was just one little joint, man, and now he has 20 years in prison. It's like, no, you're a liar.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to frame it in the one-time small joint, that's a strong man argument. I'm saying,
what is he in for?
I don't know how much he had, but it was.
And one time
it wasn't. Yeah.
Notice how he couldn't answer that. I don't know how much it was, but nothing. It was probably not just a joint.
It was one time.
He got caught one time selling
No, I don't know. It wasn't his
One
first time. No.
Okay, so he got caught multiple times, and he was selling weed.
But every time wasn't the same thing.
Do you know how many people die from lace weed?
I don't.
You know about the fentanyl problem in this country?
Yeah, I do know about fentanyl.
You know that most people aren't trying to get fentanyl, right?
But
weed itself never killed anybody.
I'm about to say fentanyl ain't our thing.
No, what I'm saying is, do you realize why trafficking drugs is a problem? You said a little thing. Can I tell you that if I had a white friend who was caught trafficking drugs, and I don't think weed should be outlawed, by the way, it's bullshit. Just to be clear. But if I had a white friend who was arrested the umpteenth time for selling a brick of weed, I would go, yeah, that makes sense. We would expect it.
Not for weed.
Of course.
Not for me.
Selling weed, yeah. Selling a giant brick of weed multiple times, yes. Yes.
And those dude. Well, listen, I don't know what state this is in, but you can't like, it's not legalized everywhere selling weed. So, it's illegal nonetheless. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, sir. It doesn't matter if you feel it should be illegal to sell weed or not. The fact of the matter is it is illegal selling weed, and your friend broke the law, knowingly broke the law, and he probably sold a lot of weed too. It wasn't just a single joint like he was trying to say earlier. It was definitely more than that. So sorry, doesn't matter. Laws don't care about your feelings.
Choices.
And at the same time, I know people personally that like you got dudes out here like selling all kinds of other shit. I ain't gonna even put names on it, but you got dudes out here selling all kinds of other shit and they free. They've been arrested a couple times too, but they back out.
But at what point do we say, hey, you know what? Once you've been arrested for trafficking, for selling drugs, if you do it again, that's kind of on you.
Cocaine, man, we'll let you back out for cocaine. Oh, meth, don't worry about it. Sit in the pen.
You
for
said a little thing. That's not a little thing.
Weed? Oh no, 8 to 9 years, you done.
Okay, how about this? Someone who goes out and commits multiple crimes and felonies, if we do doesn't get any reparations. Because the white kid who didn't break.
Tyler, the dude's a rat. He knows people. Yeah, I know, right? The dude's just telling on, just snitching on his friends. The cops are going to be watching this like, wait a minute now. People that are selling this stuff, huh? They're going to go visit that guy's house after.
The law, who never had any slaves, and his forefathers shouldn't be paying for someone who's a serial offender. Could we do that math? Would that be fair?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No.
Absolutely.
And
not.
the reason why, once again, because
I'm trying to find some common ground because that white kid.
And I'm trying to tell you, you're trying to start the starting point right here when you're not factoring in what happened to get that kid in that low-income, impoverished environment that created the criminal that he ended up being.
Oh my God, this is what we do. It's not
there's
crime, it's poverty.
causation,
Then
brother.
why do poor white people not commit violent crime at the same rate? It's not even close.
do.
No, they don't.
It's just usually different types of crime.
No, they do not.
They do.
It's
They
a
just-
fact, dude.
Y'all just shovel them all
They
in the
just
trailer
different
parks,
types of
act like
they
they
just
don't
different
exist.
types of
No, no,
crime. And then
we
they go
don't
off. They
we
go
don't
off
shovel
in
in the trailer
hills and
park. They
live-
stealth.
They go off in the hills and live amongst the rest of the toothless hillbillies, but they do.
You don't hear it.
Yeah, they just don't.
We're talking about statistical realities.
There's no cameras over
of the
there.
young white male, when the young white male is the real threat to America as it stands.
Oh, dude. The young white male is the real threat to America. Okay. I think I already know everything I need to know about that guy right there. Just hold on himself. When you say something like the young white male is a real threat to America, and I'm like, okay. All right.
You know what? You're right. I agree. You're right about that. Because young white males are going to be the majority with guns, and if you keep telling them that they're fucking criminals and they should pay for people's bad decisions, you don't want to see them angry. Because they've never been angry. And I'm telling you, I'm looking at young men, and they're way, way more angry than I ever was.
Well, if
and I
they're that
listen to
angry,
them.
why they could? Well, if
So
that
they're getting
angry,
their
why-
ass kicked.
If they're that angry, why they only killing each other in their communities? When's the last time you? I mean, how many? Let's look at recently.
That's a good
The
question.
shootings
Why are they
that
not
have
killing
happened-
black people?
No, you know,
Why are young white
but
people
here's
not?
the point, because they're able to understand
the
that
ones that's pushing
these
for
are
the
not
Civil
the
War, they
problem.
want to.
They're not. Listen, they're able to understand that. You know what? Perhaps I've been looking at it and I've been taught wrong. Maybe the problem lies with the person who I've been looking up to for all my guidance. Because listen, I mean, think about it. Even with the most, and let me tell you this, and I'm going on record as saying this. I don't care who you are and what your political dissidence is. There's no justification for going out taking the life of someone. Just because you have a different opinion of mine doesn't mean I'm going to get angry enough to say I'm going to go out and shoot you, right? When you go, when everybody asks me, because I got people who ask me, man, what did you think about this incident with Charlie Kirk? I say, you know what? People are not going to want to talk about it. I say, but this here was really a situation where this kid, more than likely, wasn't angry because of what was happening in Black America.
No, he wasn't. That wasn't.
He was angry because of the fact that Charlie Kirk had a different opinion about people who are homosexuals. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And that was the cause that I believe in my mind personally that led him to say, you know what, this has got to be stopped because of the fact this guy is talking about someone who I love, okay? So let's talk about that. That crime really probably could be looked at more as a crime of passion versus a political outcry for difference. You understand?
No, it's political assassination. But here's one thing we can all agree on, right? The guy who shot Charlie Kirk, okay, his roommate, his lover, was a dude who was claiming he was transitioning to a woman. You're just fucking gay at that point.
You're just
right?
gay. Let's call it for what it is.
Right? Yeah.
You're just gay.
Can we all agree on that? It's like, no, you're going. He's not even a chick yet. No.
He's not even a Hey, well, you know, at least we could end it off on them finding some common ground there. That yes, if you are a man and you're seeing a trans woman who's actually just really a dude, well, that's gay. And I think that's something that we could all agree on, right? Even the blacks, even they know, yeah, that's gay. So yeah, it's always interesting when Crowder does this. Props to him for having the balls to go and do this, you know, having conversations like this. And these are conversations that need to be had. Because like I said, if we're going to really try to help the black community, if we're trying to actually help the black community, not just, oh, here you go, here's your reparations, or here's DEI policies, or here's this, just handing them stuff. If you actually go and try to fix the culture from within, that will help the black community out longer in the long run. And not just the short-term stuff, which is what the Democrats want to do. The Democrats just want to keep black people under their thumb, you know, just keep them under their control. So if you want to see the full video, I have a link down in the description down below. What did you guys think about this? Leave a comment in the comment section. Subscribe to my channel. That'll help me out a lot. And also give the video a like. That'll help me out a lot. If you want to see more Steven Crowder, I got a whole playlist for you that I think you'll enjoy.